Hi, I'm Larry Gifford. I have Parkinson's disease. I'm 48 years old. I'm a husband, a father, a friend, a radio executive, and a PD Avenger, which makes me an advocate. This is When Life Gives You Parkinson's. This season, we're talking a lot about Parkinson's advocacy, from advocating for yourself with your doctor to people with Parkinson's communicating with lawmakers and others who are educating, participating in research, or sharing their story, whether through a podcast, a blog, a book, social media, magazines, or just one-on-one with a friend who's curious. One fierce advocate that I would like to introduce you to is Christine Jayachandran. Christine is Australian, but lives in Peru. I met her in Japan, of course. I was aware of Christine before arriving because of a video she submitted for the WPC 2019 video contest called Handstand for Parkinson's. Let's listen in.
When I was a kid, I loved to do handstands. I've had Parkinson's disease for 5 years, and now I'm 42. And I've struggled to do exercise regularly. But I decided this year with trepidation to give gymnastics a try, to increase my movement and to get my handstand back.
When my mom was 37, she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. The people that have this disease have trouble walking, and sometimes they drag their leg when they walk, and their hand shakes. Their arms are quite stiff, and sometimes their legs. And she wanted to do her exercise so her disease wouldn't get worse. But it was kind of hard to do exercise every day. But then she thought a little bit more. Since I do gymnastics, she said, I want to do gymnastics too. I want to become a gymnast. And I'm like, great idea. She got my coach to help her. And he was building up her muscles, and they stretched at the gymnastics.
When I started out doing gymnastics, I was really sore, even though it was just a 45-minute class. Gradually, I've progressed to training up to 2 hours.
Oh, she's on the high bar. Oh, look at her swing. That's great. Pull up. Awesome. Here she's doing a lot of exercises, the stretching, and oh, she's doing the splits. Ow. Oh, good for you. That hurts.
The thing I like about gymnastics is that it's social. That's lots of fun. And it was built-in accountability with having people along for the ride and having a coach. But yesterday my coach quit on me. He's taking some time off. I literally cried here on the floor. And so I'm, of course, a little devastated and don't know what to do. But here I am in the gym. Yesterday was one day, and today I'm going to try and keep training on my own or find a solution to keep going. We all hit the bumps in the roads, and even though it's difficult, I'm going to keep going because I've got some aims to achieve with a coach or without a coach. One of my dreams from the beginning was to do a handstand, and I just started attempting that. It's not very beautiful yet. Hopefully I can improve the form of it and make my legs straighter and make it more how it should be. Throwing myself headfirst at the floor has never really been appealing. Even though I wanted to do a handstand, I was just still frightened every time. I still am frightened every time.
She got her handstand because she persevered a lot, and she never gave up even though it was very hard, and I'm very proud of my mommy.
I was so happy to get my handstand, and it was even straighter than I expected. This journey isn't easy. It's a lot of hard work, ongoing. May God give me the strength I need to live my life to the fullest. Thank you for those who helped me out with the video and for all those who encouraged me.
Christine brings hope, urgency, and education to her Parkinson's advocacy in Peru. We've been in touch since the WPC. We're both now WPC 2022 ambassadors and PD Avengers. I caught up with her recently to chat about her family, her life, her religion, Peru, and Parkinson's advocacy. I started at the very beginning. Where did you grow up?
Oh, that's actually a longer question than you expect. I actually was born in Papua New Guinea, which is the country above Australia, but I'm Australian and we moved back to Australia when I was 11.
And what was that like?
Moving back to Australia? Well, it was hard for an 11-year-old because it's a big adjustment changing countries at that age. But it was eventually I adjusted and got on with life. in Australia, in Sydney.
Did that set you up for future adventures?
Yeah, in a way, I think that I sort of got the travel bug young. I love traveling, and I love living in different parts of the world and experiencing different cultures. And yeah, so I always had a passion to go overseas and help the poor or do something like that. And eventually I got there.
So when did you meet your husband, David?
We met when I was about 26, and we met at the train station. But the truth is, we actually had seen each other at a prayer meeting first, so it wasn't completely a stranger meeting. Yeah, and that started it all.
A prayer meeting?
Yeah.
And where was the prayer meeting?
It was in a church near where I worked.
Okay, and had you seen him there before?
I'd just seen him once. We didn't talk, but he saw me and I saw him. And then we were at the train station, and he said, "Hi, do you remember me from the prayer meeting?" And then we just talked the whole way along on our train ride.
Do you remember the conversation?
Yeah, we talked about everything, and we realized immediately we had a lot in common. He was from India, and he'd moved to Australia when he was about 10. And we had some different church things in common, same faith, and various different things. And in the end, he asked the prayer leader, the prayer group leader, for my phone number or my email address.
Wow, and they gave it to him.
And that's how yeah, not too much worry about, privacy and all that sort of thing. It was 16, well, we've been married nearly 16 years, so it was a while ago.
Talk about your faith.
Yeah, well, I grew up in a Christian family, and I, from a young age, understood the faith, but I had to embrace it for myself. And I think that's very important for every teenager or whoever to think about it for themselves and decide whether they want to have faith and trust in God. And that's something I chose to do as a teenager. And I think it's really important to me, and it's very important to me and my husband, because we've moved overseas to work for the church. And we really see the Bible as the basis for our relationship and everything we do. So whenever we have a problem or an issue, we go back to the Bible. It's not some outside idea of what's right and wrong. It's written there, and we work together through the Bible.
Oh, that's lovely. So do you randomly open a page hoping that it's going to answer your questions?
Sometimes I open randomly and see, wow, that's interesting. And sometimes, we work through, in our church, we work through books of the Bible, so we get it chronologically and understand it in context. And that's really important. A lot of people like to, do that, but you could get something very strange if you do that.
Well, sure, but it's also over time, maybe it makes more sense. Maybe it doesn't make sense right away.
Yeah. Well, it's sometimes interesting that, I've been allocated a passage to lead for a Bible study next week, and it happens to be on advocacy, which is not something you think about that is in the Bible. And I'm like, that's so relevant to my life right now. We're trying to work with PD Avengers and look at advocacy, and I found this fabulous example of advocacy in the Bible.
Do you have that verse?
Well, it's the book of Esther. Esther was a young Hebrew girl who was basically taken into the palace of the Persian king and then chosen as the queen. But she was Hebrew, and that wasn't a good thing. And then they decided they were going to kill the Hebrews, and she had to go and put her life at risk to ask the king to not let them die, because they were going to kill the whole Hebrew people, including her, of course. So yeah, they got away.
Very
because of her.
And you feel that relates to you and your advocacy?
Well, in a sense that just if you read the whole story, I didn't explain it all. It definitely does, because she's, she does what normal people do. They have excuses, I'm going to get killed, and various different things. But then the way she acts is very wise, and there's some things you can learn from that.
I thought maybe you thought you were the Queen of Parkinson's.
No, definitely not.
I'm just kidding.
There's one verse that says you might be in this position for such a time as this. And I feel like, anywhere we're in life, that really does apply for us. We're here for a reason. We're here to do something. We're here to help others, I believe.
I do too. And I think you found your calling.
Definitely.
You and David were married in Australia?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then
in 2004.
How long were you married before your twin girls, Amelia and Annabelle, were born?
They were born 3 years after we got married. We have a little boy as well. He was born 3 years later as well.
And then how did you make the decision to move to Peru?
Well, because I always had it sort of in my blood, this idea to travel and help the poor or do something overseas, I wanted to do something. And my husband wasn't that keen, but he's like, okay, we'll do a short visit and see what it's like. And so we came to Peru, and he started saying, well, when I come back, I'll do this. When I come back, I'll do this. I'm like, oh, I think he wants to come back. And so we decided to come back. We went back to Australia, did some Bible college, and had our family. And then maybe 5 or 6 years later, we came back.
And so Peru is in South America. It is
That's right.
To the north is Ecuador and Colombia. Down south is Chile, and to the southeast is Ecuador. And nestled in the south of Peru is an ancient city of Arequipa. Is that where you are?
Yeah, we're in the city. Yeah, we're very close. We can walk into the town. Yep.
So now the way I read this is that it's awe-inspiring with museums, churches, cathedrals, and monasteries around every corner.
Yeah, sure. There's definitely monasteries and museums, but most impressive, I actually think, is the mountains behind, God's creation. There are 3 humongous mountains, and one of them is a volcano, which looks like a volcano, and the other 2 are bigger. Even one of them is even bigger. It's over 6,000 meters, and the other one's just a bit less. And yeah, they're just gorgeous, and they sometimes get snow, and you just want to get out there. When you see the snow, you've got to get up early and get a photo. It's just gorgeous.
Kind of frames the whole city as it nestles in amongst the volcanoes.
Yes.
And that's really cool.
Yeah.
Have you been to the San Camilo market?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
And what do you buy there?
Oh, fruit, vegetables, yogurt, cereals, multigrains to make bread. Everything.
Lots of fresh seafood, I hear.
Definitely, yeah.
It sounds like
It
sounds like a great place to visit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, actually, they do tours of it. Like when tourists come, our city's usually full of tourists. Right now, I'm the only person who looks like a tourist. But yeah, usually it's full of tourists, and they do tours inside the market, and you can understand the different fruit and vegetables that are unique to Peru. But yeah.
What have you discovered?
I'm not a tourist.
What's new? What was new for you when you moved there that you really like?
What do I really like? I love the popcorn. They've got this fabulous popcorn. So in Peru, it's called maize, and it's bigger than normal popcorn. It's kind of whitey, not right yellow, but whitey color, whitey off-white. And they're this chunky big, but when they do, and so you eat that with vegetables and like a normal corn. But if you make it into popcorn, it's like big popcorns, and then they put sugary stuff on it.
That sounds awesome.
And it's really delicious. And you can't get it anywhere else.
And then my son is a huge bird watcher, and I understand that you can see condors in full flight.
Yeah, definitely. Not so much in the city, but if you just go out to another place, about 6 to 8 hours, everything's a long way on the roads.
6 to 8 hours, about 6 to 8 hours.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's probably a little bit less if you went direct, but they take you to other things on the way and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's beautiful, and I have some gorgeous photos of the condors I can send for you to show your son.
Oh, he would love that. That's great.
Yeah,
that's great. Well, it sounds like Peru is a good fit for you guys.
Yeah, we love it.
When did your Parkinson's symptoms begin to appear?
It was when in Peru. So the first thing that I saw, but I didn't think anything of it, I never would have connected it with Parkinson's. Just after we moved here, there was a slight tremble in my hand, but I didn't think anything of it, so I didn't do anything about it.
You didn't think anything of it, or did you think it was something else, or you just ignored it?
Well, we knew someone with an essential tremor, so we talked to him about it, and we just thought, oh, must be something like that. I don't know. We just didn't really think about it. I'm so young. I didn't know much about Parkinson's back then, but the real diagnosis started when my fingers sort of got weak. So whenever I lifted up a jug of water, especially my left hand, it would start to pour, or I would grab something with my hands, and it would sort of just slip from my fingers, and that seemed very strange to me. And so we asked the doctor, and went to the doctor and did all sorts of tests to rule out other things first.
How far into did you go to the doctor?
I think as soon as I started this, I dropped a set of mugs that we were going to gift to someone as a gift, and they crashed and broke, and we're like, oh, that's strange. And we have a friend who's a doctor. He's American. He lives here. And so we just said, oh, what do you think? And he goes, oh, let's just eliminate, what we, see what we can see. He didn't guess it was, I think he might have mentioned Parkinson's very briefly, but I'm so young, he didn't really take it very seriously. But then when we were in Lima, he suggested, why don't you go to a neurologist when you're in Lima? And we had someone sort of hook up us an appointment really quickly. And we went in, and he said, as soon as you walked in the door, I knew it was Parkinson's.
Did he say why?
Yeah, basically my left arm didn't swing when I walked. And I think by then it already had started my foot to slap when I walked. It doesn't go down slowly, it just slaps the floor. Yeah.
Isn't that fun, the foot clump?
Yeah, I was a bit annoyed because thereafter I heard it because I didn't notice it before. And then I knew every time I walked, it just reminded me that I had Parkinson's.
Did you feel like you were getting the same type of treatment in Peru that you would get in Australia?
I had no idea, to be honest, because I hadn't seen a doctor in Australia about that. But the first appointment, they did give me what do you call it in English? A prescription. We went and bought some drugs from the prescription, couldn't read the other writing, didn't take anything, no. And then we went for our second opinion, and we went back and talked to our American doctor, and he started doing some research, and he said, I'm not sure these drugs are good for you, Christine. Let's investigate. And then they worked out that I should probably go on something else first, not what they had recommended.
What do you remember what they recommended? Was it like an agonist or?
Yeah, so it was recommended I go on an agonist first, as opposed to he'd just given me, I assume it was just levodopa, probably a combination of it, yeah. Yeah,
okay.
So not ideal at first. I didn't have that many symptoms that I needed something so strong as levodopa. And I'm not sure, but I don't think he was a movement specialist. So, yeah, maybe he didn't know.
You were 37, diagnosed with Parkinson's.
Mm-hmm.
How did that make you feel?
Oh, it was a real shock, definitely a real shock. I mean, nobody expects that at 37. I was healthy otherwise, and I look, the fingers, it just doesn't really seem to be something that would be related to Parkinson's. But, listening to the doctor, getting the second opinion, I actually knew it was right. I knew in my heart that it was the correct thing.
What'd David say?
Oh, well, I guess we cried together. So he was just in shock, yeah.
And then the girls and your son?
They were pretty little, so thankfully they didn't really understand at the time. I think it was probably better that way. Samuel was about 4 and they were about 7. So, we didn't really say much at the time, but as time went on, they just sort of started to understand about it, and we talked about it a bit more. And when we went back to Australia, I spoke in churches about having Parkinson's because everyone in Australia was praying for us in the churches we visit. And then they started to go, oh, so, and they sort of understood what it was through that process too.
Did you turn to the Bible?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely turned to the Bible, and I started looking up verses about suffering and what does God say about suffering. It's a big issue. It's a big topic. We can't really cover it now, but definitely.
There's a lot of suffering in the Bible, I know.
Definitely a lot of suffering in the Bible. So, yeah, definitely. And it wasn't something that I immediately said, wow, my faith is going to be, it makes life perfect and I expect healing, that sort of thing. No, it was kind of like a process of trusting God that good things could come out of this, even though it's really hard. And it's not to say that good things come out of everything in life, but I do feel like good things have come out of me having Parkinson's, if you can see the silver lining.
Like what?
Well, definitely it's changed completely what I'm doing here. I'm helping people in Peru. So yeah, after going to the World Parkinson's Congress, I had a lot more confidence to reach out and help people. I started a group here called Activate, which means you get active in Spanish, or get you active. I don't know how you say it, really, can't really translate it very well. But I would never have done that before. And I basically helping people who have Parkinson's. It's just so encouraging to see them learning from what I've learned as well. So last night I talked to a couple and the husband has Parkinson's. And they said the first time they heard about exercise was when I talked to them at the group that I created. The first time they had heard that exercise was good for Parkinson's. It's incredible. And so then they did a little bit of exercise, but then they said when the quarantine started, we had nothing to do. So we started exercising and doing it every day like you suggested. And we did some of the exercises you suggested and with some videos, and we found some videos online. And now she says that her husband can roll over in bed. Doesn't seem like much, but it's important. And his feet are much more flexible and they don't get swelling up like they used to.
Oh, that's
so
amazing.
That just really encouraged me. And there's a few stories like that.
Oh, that's great. I loved hearing that. Were you exercising from the beginning of your diagnosis?
Yeah, sort of. I was sort of casually exercising. I went to the gym. Not too seriously, though, I don't think. Yeah, I could have done more.
What was the catalyst to do more?
Oh, there's a couple of things. One thing is I went to a birthday party for my son. Here they have a clown who yells at the parents and says, get up, dance, do this, do that. And he said, like, raise your arms. And I could not do what they were doing. So I sort of put some food in my mouth and pretended I didn't want to dance. But it was really, I couldn't do what they were doing. That was the one thing. The other thing was the what do you call it? The Unite for Parkinson's campaign. It was run out of Europe, and they used my video, and everyone said, "You're so inspiring, Christine," and they really liked my video. And I was like, "Oh, I could do better. I could do more to look after myself." And honestly, I'm not looking after myself that better, but I didn't want to say that. And so that was sort of the impetus for me to take up gymnastics. And yeah, that sort of pushed me along.
So what took you from being, okay, I'm Christine, I'm 37, I have Parkinson's, to I think I'm supposed to be an activist?
Activist?
Or advocate?
I think advocate, yeah, sure. I think it was gymnastics totally changed me, because basically I could see that I was making progress in what I was doing. And I improved so much that made me think, well, if I could do it, other people could do it. And it sort of became like, if I can do it, you can do it. And I started to realize, I did a little research project for the World Parkinson's Congress for a poster to look into what the situation was like for people in Peru, to find out what they were experiencing, because I had a sixth sense. They weren't being told to exercise, because I don't think they told me to exercise. And it's true, they basically don't, there wasn't high education for Parkinson's patients. And so I just decided that I'm going to try and help. And I think the World Parkinson's Congress just gave me a little boost, because it helped me get educated in Parkinson's a lot more than I had been before.
What is the treatment like in Peru? Like, what are the therapies they offer or are lacking at this point? They
don't offer anything except drugs, really. That's the sad thing. There are no multidisciplinary centres. There are no, there might be a few physiotherapists who have an idea about Parkinson's, but not in my city, that's for sure. I even went to a physiotherapy clinic and the receptionist said, "We don't treat Parkinson's because there's no cure." And I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, she was just the receptionist, but even when I was treated inside the clinic, they didn't really know what they were doing about Parkinson's, so it's really tragic. But I mean, there are some specialists in Lima. There are people who do know, but unfortunately there's not really funding for that. Sometimes they do get sent to physiotherapy. Some have said, yes, I got told to go to physiotherapy, but they were sort of got so bored in the class that, it didn't seem helpful. And they're not really Parkinson's specific exercises. And for younger people like myself, they certainly weren't intensive enough. I visited a class once that was supposedly for Parkinson's patients, but it wouldn't have been good for me at all. Just not intensive enough and not pushing the boundaries. And
seems like they're going off maybe some old information, because it used to be, don't go too hard, don't you don't want to hurt yourself. And now, my physiotherapist just beats me up.
Good. Yeah, I think we need to be pushed really hard.
We do.
It's hard.
I exercise and we don't have a good relationship.
I know how you feel, though. I really do know how you feel. I was like that. But the confidence that reaching a few little things helped me push further, and I can climb a rope. Well, before the quarantine, I could climb a rope. I mean, I would never have expected to be able to do that.
That was like the most
Incredible.
embarrassing part of elementary school, was trying to climb the rope.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's pretty hard. I can't do it now because I've lost practice.
Well, a lot of people know you from Handstands for Parkinson's, the documentary you did for WPC 2019. I've heard of boxing. I've done the, circuit training. Some people like to do dance or CrossFit. I had never heard of somebody working out for Parkinson's with handstands. How did you get from gymnastics to handstands?
Well, basically, I was pretty desperate. Again, there's no PD classes here. There's no physiotherapists who understand Parkinson's. And I had been to physios, but they just didn't really encourage me, or kind of discouraged me, in fact. So I thought, well, what is something that's regular with accountability, because I need accountability. And I saw the kids going to gymnastics, because my kids do gymnastics, or my girls do more than my son. And I could see that it could improve balance, strength, flexibility, and so much more. And I thought, that's exactly what I need. So I said, with fear and trembling, will you teach me? And to my surprise, the coach said yes. He had a class of dancers in the morning, and I joined that. Of course, I'm way behind them. They're super flexible, and some of them are even pole dancers, which is completely opposite to where I'm coming from. But they're very dedicated, and that really encouraged me. And I just plodded along, pretended like no one could see me in the gym. When I started doing gymnastics, I thought, I could do a handstand when I was a kid, just in the playground. Like, I could do that. Why I can't do it now? Why? Fear, really, fear. And I'm obviously a lot heavier than I was when I was a kid. And the Parkinson's as well. I couldn't even raise my arms up straight when I started. And so I just thought it would be fun to try. And the other thing that helped me get there was the World Parkinson's Congress video competition. I thought if I had an aim, something I could share, that would be a good, focus of the video. So I had to get the handstand to get my video in, and it was very touch and go. I nearly didn't get it. So I think the video helped me get my handstand.
The World Parkinson Congress, I heard you say on Tanya Lestrange's podcast, Parkinson Road, that that changed your life.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a big statement.
I do think so, because firstly, I would never have done the handstand if the video deadline wasn't there. I don't think I would have done it. So I got the video in, and then they said, when I filled in the application, are you going to come to the conference? So I actually had to decide when I put the video in, am I going to go? And I said, okay. And Japan is a long way from Peru, so it was a big commitment. And then at the Congress, I just feel like I met people who were inspirational, yourself included, and met various other people, and just learnt so much about Parkinson's. And I think emotionally, the video did give me a bit of a boost, because people said, oh, great, you did great, that was wonderful. And I was like, oh, cool. And I sort of came back and did more when I got home for that. And so it just gave me a good boost to get going, because I needed something to, help give me the strength to help other people.
Well, it was great because we were in the pre-seminar advocacy session. That's where I first became aware of you, and I loved how you just sort of stood up and started asking questions and challenging things, and it was you were all in from the word go.
Yeah, that's me, I think. I'm definitely involved. And because I have so much to learn about this whole thing about advocacy and Parkinson's, I wanted to get the most out of it. So I always have questions. So
how was you talked about how far away it was. Did it affect your Parkinson's at all, the travel?
Well, hard to say. I went to Australia first, and then I went to Japan. So I think I arrived in Australia on the Friday and then got on the plane on the Sunday to go to Japan. So I was exhausted, actually, that first day in Tokyo. It was very hot, and I tried to walk up to one of those things on the side of town where they have sort of temples or something, and I couldn't. I got sort of up the first set of stairs and thought, that'll do me for today. I'm too tired.
Yeah, on the way home, for whatever reason, I must have gotten off my meds, and the dyskinesia kicked in for like 2 weeks. It was bad.
No.
And I know that
Yeah.
trip hurt a lot of people with Parkinson's. Like it just, we weren't expecting it, and it just like the trip home for whatever reason was really rough. I didn't know if you experienced that at all.
I think I was mainly under-medicated at the time because I did have a lot of trouble walking around. And I think I went to the doctor as soon as we got back to Australia, and he said, "You're under-medicated." So that's when I sort of started taking a little bit more medication because, I was struggling.
So you've been to the doctor now in Australia. How's it compare to Peru?
That's very different. So in Australia, when I was diagnosed, they sent me to a clinic for the whole morning. It was sort of, I saw a physiotherapist, a dietitian, sort of a counsellor, and someone else, a speech therapist, all in one morning, as well as a neurologist on a previous day. And it was, that's incredible. Like, to get that sort of treatment is incredible. That's what we'd love to see here. But we'll start with physio. That would be the first thing. I'm organising a training for physiotherapists here. We're doing sort of an initial training probably in November, and then we're going to try and get a further training next year. That's great that I can encourage people to get that organised, because that just shows that even patients can push things along, and it's going to happen, I'm sure.
Christine and I spoke for about an hour, and she told me that when she returned from Japan, she was considering inviting her Parkinson's friends in Peru to help her start an organization. But there was just one problem, and it was a big problem.
These people are hiding away. I had one friend who had Parkinson's in my town, but she keeps it a secret. So she can't really help me make a Parkinson's association because she keeps it a secret. The next person that I found out pretty quickly after that was someone whose father from gymnastics has it. Again, secret. But I got him involved, and it turned out after a bit of convincing, he started coming along. He had a connection with the newspaper. He's a lawyer, and he was in a big government department. I mean, he's retiring now because of Parkinson's, but he got his contact, and we got in the newspaper.
That's great.
And that started the ball rolling, and we've been in the newspaper 3 or 4 times since.
That's amazing. So you're getting the word out. How's the community growing?
It's great. Like the first session, we had about 10 to 12 people, and family members as well. And then every time we had some different people coming along. We had about 3 or 4 meetings, and every time we got new people, and people ringing me all the time and signing up to be in the group. Obviously, things have slowed down with COVID, but the biggest success we had was we had a doctor from America. He's actually a Peruvian doctor who now lives in America. He's a neurologist, a movement disorder specialist, and he came out, and we had a big session in the hospital, and we had over 100 people, and that was really exciting.
What are the biggest topics related to Parkinson's in Peru?
They really, really want a cure. They really want a magical cure because they're so desperate. I mean, they'll just come to me. Nearly every session, someone comes to me and says, "Christine, what about this? What about that? I heard there's a machine in Lima that can heal you." I said, "If there's a machine, it's not in Lima." Well,
we both, I think, have hope based on the book Ending Parkinson's Disease.
Definitely.
What did you take away from reading that book?
Well, it shocked me about the chemicals. I didn't really know about that chemicals can have an effect and cause Parkinson's. So definitely want to see a ban on all the chemicals that could cause Parkinson's. And the second thing is that it's exciting that there are other people out there who want to push for an end to Parkinson's like us. So that's really encouraging. And I think it's been really great how that's been the basis for PD Avengers, which you have organised, Larry. So I'm really excited for that.
Why did you join PD Avengers?
Well, I love the idea from the get-go, but I think, to be honest, as soon as I got Parkinson's disease, I became an educator, whether I wanted to or not. At first, that was really hard because I was a bit teary and I didn't really know the answers to the questions. But gradually, as time went on, I got more confident and I could answer people's questions and I could tell them when things weren't quite right in a polite way. And mostly people didn't know that exercise helped Parkinson's. So I've become an educator whether I like it or not. And so let's just get the word out to everyone in the world how difficult it is to have Parkinson's and how much it causes disability in the lives of people with Parkinson's.
When you think of a cure for Parkinson's, what do you think of?
I'm not really a scientist, to be honest. I will let someone else take care of that. But I really would love to see what I would like is that symptoms could stop progressing. That would be really the first thing that would help me and people like yourself.
Yeah, I think I'm there with you. I'm not looking for reversal. I mean, that'd be great, but like I think that's like science fiction future. But I do think we could probably stop it in its tracks. We could somehow trap it, and I think we could prevent onset for others.
Yeah,
and it's going to take some good biomarkers, probably a series of biomarkers that they have to identify, that they're beginning to identify, and make those affordable and really, globally used from a young age, so we can begin to identify who has the potential for Parkinson's and figure out how to stop it.
Yeah, sure.
There's so many great, smart people working on that right now. That's what excites me.
Yeah, actually, there's a girl in Arequipa who's a student who's doing a writing-based thing where they analyze writing and can predict early diagnosis of Parkinson's. That's incredible.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, she lives in Arequipa, so.
What are some of the milestones in your advocacy that has kept you motivated?
I think the main thing is the World Parkinson's Congress has been really important, giving me the education I need. So I encourage everybody to get along to the World Parkinson's Congress, but be careful, it might change you. I think just the physical side of things, I made a video called Before and After, which just shows the physical change, how much I improved. And I think that's been, just seeing that video, even though I made it, has shocked me as well, seeing how much difference you can make in your own life by doing exercise. I couldn't lift my arms up, and then now I can climb a rope. I couldn't do a handstand. Before the quarantine, I could do the splits and slide along the floor on these things called sliders. I mean, who would have thought that I could do that? I mean, it's not a complete split, but it's almost there. So that just physically, just knowing that the body is capable of so much more than we could ever imagine. And I think that is so encouraging to everyone out there who has Parkinson's. Don't limit yourself by what you have in your mind, which is what I do and have done in the past. Just get out there and push yourself to the extreme, because you don't know what you can do. I mean, look what I did. And I know people say, oh, but you're young. No. We have to trust the body can do so much more than we ask or imagine.
Do you think that you would have listened to you when you were first diagnosed?
Probably not, but because my husband was pushing me to exercise, but he didn't have the video that I made. He didn't have the before and after. That's incredible. And I mean, I don't want to say that about myself, but I really am shocked at it. The other video I made was with 12 other people who have Parkinson's, the benefits of exercise. They're all different shapes and sizes, some big, some small, some old, some young. They all say the same thing. That one's called the benefits of exercise. If I had seen those, maybe I would have been more excited about exercising.
What advice would you give yourself if you could go back in time and say, hey, Christine, what would you say?
I would say, you can do it. Get out there. Just go every day, whether you like it or not. It's going to improve your life, and it's going to prevent the disease progressing.
What are your symptoms like today?
I'm struggling a little bit with dyskinesia at the moment, which is like that involuntary movement. That is hard, and that's basically, I didn't experience that much before the quarantine, but as the quarantine has gone along, I think I've become less active. I'm still active and I do exercise almost every day, but I think it's not as much as I used to, and I really miss my gym. So today I did like a functional class online, and that was really pushed me to the extreme. And I think that's really helpful. It's really helpful to have someone pushing you along.
Has COVID affected anything else in relation to your Parkinson's?
Not really, just mainly being less active. I think it's hard because we've been in quarantine for 6 months, and it's just sad. It's depressing. It's sad being inside the house. I'm extroverted. I hate being at home for an extended period. So that's just hard generally. And I think that's hard for everybody. I don't want to be complaining about that because everyone's been under the same thing, but it was hard. Every time they extended the quarantine every month, I would cry.
I'm wondering if this is testing us and teaching us a lesson on how, as humans, we can be more empathetic with each other and more helpful with each other and more neighborly. And
yeah,
I mean, there's what's the Bible say about this? Come on, there's got to be something in there.
About quarantine?
Well, it probably doesn't mention COVID-19 by name.
No, but you definitely find examples of people who are locked away. The Apostle Paul was in prison, and he was writing letters encouraging people in the church, even though he was in prison, locked away. I mean, that's an incredible person, and a story of someone who, is writing such beautiful, encouraging letters to people. And I mean, even Queen Esther, she was in the palace. She couldn't see her father figure. She was an orphan, and her father figure would come to the gate every day and try and get word to her and talk to her, but he couldn't go to her. I mean, that was sort of someone else who was sort of, separated from their people. So there's definitely examples of people in the Bible who struggled being distanced from other people. So definitely there's lots of examples for us to follow.
It's giving you more time with your kids.
Definitely.
How has having Parkinson's impacted your ability to be a mom?
I don't think it has affected that much, to be honest. I'm still there for them. They sort of help me a little bit more than they probably would if I was a normal parent. They correct my movements when we do exercise, and they tell me what I'm doing wrong.
My son does that to me too at every turn. No, Dad, that's not how you do it.
Yeah, but they correct my Spanish too, so I'm used to being corrected. But the other thing they do is that if I would take them to gymnastics in the evening and wait around to bring them up, and sometimes my drugs would wear off before we did the walk up to the car park or to the road, and so they would sort of help me walk up there if my drugs had worn off. So that's something that normal kids don't know, and I think they know a lot more about Parkinson's than the average kid. Yeah, definitely.
That's great. And then how has this impacted your relationship with David?
We're doing well. We're doing really well. So we thank God that we have lots of people praying for us and helping us out when we need it. We look after each other. So I'm not sure what else to say.
If people want to pray for you, what do you want them to pray for?
I think that my symptoms won't progress, that I can be strong with doing exercise. I think that's my prayer for everyone with Parkinson's, really, that we can be strong because the improvements have been amazing.
If you could send one message to the world to help everybody understand why we need to build urgency to end PD, what would that be?
I would like to say that I've done a lot to help people with Parkinson's, and I'm just one person in one community, and I've seen lives changed. I mean, it's just short term at the moment, but I'm hoping to see more and more people involved in what I'm doing to change people for the future. And I think if I can do what I've done, I think so many people out there should get involved, because one more voice, one more activist, one more person doing what I'm doing would be such a huge help. So I would say get involved in your community, get involved in PD Avengers, get along to the World Parkinson's Congress. You won't regret it, and it would really help get the message out about Parkinson's. And I also think it's really important to say that Parkinson's is something that is a disability. It leads to worsening quality of life. That's really important for people to understand. It's not just something, I mean, I don't look too bad, and so people maybe, but I know what's coming. If it continues like this, I don't want to have it. So I just think people need to understand that it's not something we should take lightly. We need to find the cure.
Christine's blog is available in English and Spanish at handstandforparkinsons.com. You can also watch the videos she talked about, subscribe to her newsletter, and more. Advocacy is important. but it comes in all shapes and sizes, and that's why we wanted to focus on Christine this time. But we'll introduce you to other advocates throughout the season, because just like Parkinson's is unique to each individual, so can your advocacy. My advocacy doesn't look like Jimmy Choi's or Rochelle Flanagan's or Amatola Thomas's or Tim Haig's or anybody's. It's mine. So you need to figure out what you can do as an advocate. This is When Life Gives You Parkinson's, a Curious Cast podcast. Our story producer is Dila Velazquez, sound designed by Greg Schott. The presenting partner is Parkinson Canada. Diagnosed with Parkinson's? You're not alone. Parkinson.ca. Thanks also to our promotional partners. Spotlight YOPD, the only organization in the world with the singular focus of raising awareness for young onset Parkinson's disease. You can find them at spotlightyopd.org. The Michael J. Fox Foundation, Parkinson's podcast, hosted by me, Larry Gifford. Available on Apple Podcasts and at michaeljfox.org. The World Parkinson Congress 2022 in Barcelona, Spain. Cross your fingers, hope we can travel by then. Go to WPC2022.org for details on special virtual events that you can participate in now, including a series of bilingual webinars coming up starting in December. They'll first do it in English, and then they'll follow it up and do it in Spanish. That's really cool. And PD Avengers, ready to help end Parkinson's? Join now at pdavengers.com. And thank you for listening. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, CastBox, or wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're there, give the show a 5-star rating. Give it 6 if you can, but I think 5's the max. And feel free to comment. You can also engage with us on social media. It's at Parkinson's Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And email us at parkinsonspod@curiouscast.ca. We love getting your email. Well, and be sure to share a link to this podcast with your friends on email, Facebook, Twitter, on your blog. You can skywrite it if you want to. You can spell it. You like socially distanced talking about podcast. Yeah. Okay. This is falling apart. I should have never done this without Niki and Rebecca. I've learned my lesson. Keep positive. Keep exercising. Keep listening. We'll talk to you next time.
Canada may be known for its landscapes and friendly people, but beneath the surface lies a darker side of crime, history, and the paranormal. Since 2017, the award-winning Dark Poutine podcast has explored the shadowy corners of the Great White North and beyond, delivering chilling tales from a uniquely Canadian perspective. Hosted by Mike Brown and Matthew Stockton with over 300 episodes and fresh releases every Monday, Dark Poutine is your weekly ticket to the creepier side of Canada. Listen to Dark Poutine on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts.